everyone.
You're the
So,
star of the show, Gus. So, if you leave, the party's over.
oh yeah, you're party
Nope.
hardy without me.
There's no
So,
party without Gus.
Well, this might be it for now. If you have to leave early, we might want to get started.
well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Kevin, thank you for stepping in and joining us. Are you getting any feedback on my microphone at all? No.
No.
Okay.
Something
All
on a TV.
right. Oh, can you hear the TV?
Yep.
Okay. Let me click that down. Brooke, I haven't seen you in ages. How are you?
I am just fine, Gus. Usually we like to watch the city council meeting or part of it on YouTube, but last night we were watching the president, so I just thought
Oh.
I'd come and see if there was, if I've never been to one of these, so I didn't know if you recap or tell
Well,
us what the main issues were at the city council meeting.
Well, we do try. I understand the president was right on, so that's a good thing. So, but and Donna, I want to thank you for helping me with the website yesterday. Kevin, on your desk, I left a couple articles from the Cloverdale Reveille going back to 1950.
Okay.
1945, and one of the topics was the new development coming to town, which was the Tarman track. The homes originally sold for $8,000, and they had a big article that I printed out for you.
Oh, cool. I love that stuff. Thank
And
you.
the city manager and the city council appointed a disaster program.
Oh, wow.
And some movers and shakers in town at that time were in charge of coordinating with the Red Cross and setting up shelters, and very similar to what we're going through now. So
Nothing's changed.
but Donna steered me to the website. You can go back to I think it was 1887 to 2004 and read every issue of the Reveille.
Wow.
And it's amazing to go back in time and see a lot of the important issues that they were having back then, we're still having today. They were talking about fires and the dryness, and so the drought was a couple issues. So it was interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
So with Kevin's
Anyone else
help,
interested in reading the old reveilles, we have, they're all on microfiche as well. The other thing is that we have, if anybody's interested in taking the paper, we have actually physical copies from, I don't know, 2017, 2018, all the way through to when they stopped putting them on, when they stopped publishing them as a paper copy. So if anybody's interested in having those, we're happy to give, we've been wanting to give them up. Somebody's going to use them for fire starters if nobody wants them. So.
oh. Well, I guess depending on the topic, it would be pretty interesting. You know, being a politician, I know when I run for city council, the 7 times that I've ran, I always have the paper announcing the winners. So, but anyhow, thank you again.
Oh, you're welcome.
So Kevin, why don't we try and highlight the important things on the agenda? But before I do that, I just want to ask anyone, are there any questions that you have about anything that you're hearing? Oh, well, here's a question actually that came in from the community. City Hall, when will it be open to the public? Anytime soon? People are frustrated with the answering system. Well, I'd like to think that when people call and leave a message, that the phone calls are being returned quickly. That's the scenario that we've enforced. As far as when it will be opening, one of the things that that we're very conscious of as a city council and our senior management is the safety of our employees. You know, the county, I think, has shot for June. I'm not sure when Mr. Kelly and Mr. Thompson are going to decide that it's safe for our employees to go back to work.
Yeah, I think that's, we're tracking with the other cities. We did watch a webinar from the attorneys yesterday about reopening and the need to really have a written plan that's going to address concerns of folks, and how do you deal with someone who doesn't want to get vaccinated, and it's getting into the kind of the HR world in terms of protected class and things like that. But we have put together a written plan, and there is a kind of a plan to open part-time soon. And I'm working with David. One of the things that we wanted to sort of have before we did open, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to, is kind of a buzzed entry at the front door, so that Letitia, who works behind the counter, can have a way to buzz people in. That way you can limit the number of people. And we have that out to bid now. Actually, it's more than bid. We're waiting for the installation of that. If that does take too long, kind of the default is going to be that we'll have to have somebody standing out there and just kind of metering the number of people who come in. So there's things like that, logistics that we're trying to work through. But I would suspect that we're, just a few weeks out from being open, not full-time, but part-time. And I think we're trying to do our best to make sure that anyone who needs the services of City Hall can still get those, even though we are closed. And, we do have the payment box, and we are just about to unveil our online building permit system, which we have been issuing building permits the whole time. It's just it's a limited time during the day. And I understand that probably is inconvenient for some folks. But that's all about to change when we do our online permitting. It's supposed to go online the next couple of weeks, which we've been working on for months. And so that's going to be good. So I totally get it. We need to be open, and I understand the perception of folks out there, and it's just trying to, we hear it from the public that we should be open and everything, but then we hear from these attorneys, and of course, how attorneys are, they're very cautious, and that's kind of their job. But there are some things that we need to work through that I think we're almost there. So look for us to be open at least a few time, if not full time, but some hours a week in the next few weeks.
And then I think it's also important to point out that the council has more or less directed senior management at City Hall to be very considerate of our employees. And what I'm referring to is we have some working moms, some working dads that have daycare issues. And with not having all of the schools open at this point in time, at least all the grades, some of them may still need the ability to work from home. And we're very understanding of that. But that will be behind the scenes. The front doors will still be open, the desk will be manned. And you'll be able to talk to folks, and that's what we're striving for.
Yeah, it's a good point, because some of the schools have just different hours too, so it's very inconvenient in a lot of ways. 9 to 12. Okay, well then you have to. That's not a long time. So if you're dropping them off and picking them up, it's just kind of the middle of the day. So thanks for that, Cuz.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if we'll continue. I think we probably will, to ask people to wear a mask when they come into City Hall. I know there's some talk now when you go outside, certain parameters, you don't need a mask. Well, I wear a mask all the time now. That's just the way I'm going to do it for a while.
And from what we understood from that webinar yesterday, employees are going to have to wear them too, at least in the short run. So that will be our reality.
Yeah. So kind of getting into the agenda, we had a closed session, and we discussed in conference with our legal counsel about existing litigations. And then we talked about real property negotiations. And I'm sorry I even said that because it was closed session, so I can't tell you anything about that, but
Well, it's on the agenda, Gus. That's public information.
yeah. So, well, okay, well, one of them is the litigation was the County of Sonoma versus Pacific Electric, Gas and Electric. And it's public comment that we joined a lawsuit against PG&E for damages to the city. Yes, we didn't have any scorched ground. We didn't have any burnt down buildings, but we did have overtime. We did have a lot of people coming into town looking for shelter at the Citrus Fair that was staffed with city employees throughout the city, just checking on things. So there was expenses incurred. Not to mention the expense to our businesses in town. When the power goes out, they're done, you know, so. And then the real property negotiations, we were talking about the Times Square property, Lot B, with the Alexander Valley Healthcare District. And we're finalizing a few things there.
Yeah, just a quick update. The project is still moving forward at Alexander Valley Medical Center on Lot B at Times Square. We've done the environmental evaluation of the project. We, in terms of the planning portion, where we have a really good application, they did a nice job putting together a very interesting building. We've just been sort of wrangling back and forth with this, what we call a development agreement with attorneys, and I know they kind of, I'm sure, are a little distracted with COVID, but it is moving forward. There's a lot of federal money that's coming down for this type of project. So they're just really trying to position themselves to be in a spot to apply for that money. And that's kind of what this was about.
Yes. And
Excuse me. Hello.
yes, Darlene, please.
Is there a map that available to the public that says, okay, this is the property, this is Alexander Valley, this is a skate park, this is something else? How about?
No, there's certain, there's what we call a subdivision map, and that shows where the property lines are. It doesn't necessarily show any development scenarios, but I could email you that if you're interested. There's 3 parcels in total, and
I'll put my email in the chat. Thank you.
And I believe that the healthcare district has some schematics of what the building was going to look like, how it was going to be situated on the lot.
Kevin, I would like that too.
Yeah, we might have some of those over at City Hall. Not that it's a done deal that it's going to look that way, but it's their concept of how they'd like it to look.
Yeah, so we have 2 things. We have what we call the subdivision map, which shows where the parcels are. And then we have, Gus is right, Alexander Valley has submitted an application, which is a very complete application that shows the building, what it's going to look like, where it sits, the parking, all those kinds of things, which that may be a little more difficult to email, but I could probably, pull some of the drawings out of it. It's just a big file is all I'm saying.
And like I said, this is a concept. It's not a done deal.
Yeah.
People will, they're gonna come to the planning commission. They're gonna have a design review, public input. So if you see something that you might have a better idea or a suggestion on how it could sit on that lot, that'll be the time to share with us. So. And I think publicly I've stated, and I know some of my fellow council members are in agreement, and I've said it publicly, that I just want to make sure that the city, if something should go sideways with the development, I want to make sure that the city can get that property back. I don't want to see it being sold to a used car lot, or I don't know, a marijuana farm or whatever. I want the city to have control over what's built on that lot. So that's something else we're working on. After the closed session, we did a couple proclamations. We did one for our national public safety telecommunicators, our 911 dispatchers and the staff there. And, you know, it's a fantastic job that they do. You just don't realize that somebody's sitting there monitoring things 24/7, 365 days a year. While you're home having Christmas, somebody's sitting down there waiting for the 911 calls. I shared with the group last night that yesterday, Cindy and I were headed out of the house. And of course, we have I have my 95-year-old mother-in-law living with us. And she has one of those help I fall down things around her neck all the time. And one of the buttons is to dial Gus, and the other one is to dial 911. Well, Cindy just wanted to make sure it worked yesterday before we left, so she accidentally pressed 911. And then when she realized what she did, she immediately hung up. Well, about 5 seconds later, there was a phone call to the house. Is everything okay? And she explained what she did, and the dispatcher said, thank you. Couple minutes later, there was a knock on the door. It was a police officer, and he was following up to make sure that it was a legitimate accident. So somebody's watching over the town the whole time, 24/7, 365. So they deserve a recognition week, month, if not longer. So, and then of course we did a proclamation recognizing Municipal Clerks Week, and of course we have Irene as our new city clerk. She does a lot single-handedly, and I keep suggesting that we hire her some help. We had an assistant that was working with her, helping take some of the minutes, doing some of the filing work, and that individual moved out of town, and she moved up to Oregon, I believe. Yeah. So now Irene is doing everything by herself. I mean, she did the election last year, filing all the paperwork, Form 700s, all the training that council members and employees have to go through. We take a 1, 2, 3, 4 class, which has to do with ethics, the Brown Act, conflicts of interest. We also take a sexual harassment class. What is sexual harassment? You know, how sensitive are we to what we say to one another? And she makes sure that all of that work is done. All that work is filed with Sacramento. She does a great job, not to mention just taking care of things that have fallen through the cracks for a number of years. So that was a good recognition. Don't you think, Kevin?
Yeah, she's great. And David and Irene and I all worked for the town of Windsor together. So I've actually known her a long time, and she was the assistant clerk there forever. And then she was the city clerk for the city of Calistoga. But no, and she, what I like, one of the things I really like about her is she's very flexible. You know, we put things on the agenda at the last minute, past the day that, you know, she needs it. So sometimes the agenda goes out on a Friday, but she doesn't. She allows us to do that without any grief. So I really appreciate that.
Yes, and then we had a presentation by Chief Jenkins over at the fire station. He talked about safe practices. He reinforced the weed abatement that they do. He had a picture of I think that home was, I don't know where it was. I don't ever remember seeing that in my drives through town, but there was a home, a rather old home, with nothing but weeds around it, as high as the windowsills. And he says that's the type of abatement that they do.
Yeah, we coordinate with the fire district every year for lots in town that have high dead weeds. It's a process. There's a public hearing. We give the owners a chance to clean it up, which is usually where it ends. If they don't, then of course we have the appropriate methods to abate them. We can go in and cut the weeds ourselves, and then bill them or lien their property if it's really bad and it's expensive. But yeah, the chief gave a really good update. on the fire situation. And one of the things that he's said to me several times, which is, I think it's kind of hard to believe, but I have to believe him, is, the western side of our valley is not as concerning to CAL FIRE and the fire districts locally because of the nature of the vegetation and the moisture content. And I'm not a scientist. I don't claim to know that, but he's told me that numerous times over the course of the last few years. It's really that eastern side across the river that is much more likely to catch on fire. And it has to do with, the fact that there's more grass over there and it's just more flashy versus the western side, which, you look at the western side and you think, boy, man, that's just gonna someday be a big problem. And I'm not saying it won't be, but they seem to be a lot less concerned. And again, CAL FIRE has mapped out where the highest fire zones are, and that one is not one of the highest. Now, not to say again, it of course could burn. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting, and I've spoken to him a few times about that. And so, it's not comforting, but it's better than that being identified as, the highest fire potential in the Cloverdale area. So.
Yeah, and he was also talking about humidity and the effect that humidity has on the fire season. And it was, if the humidity is 20% or more, we're in good shape. It helps diminish the risk of a fire.
Probably one of the go ahead. Well, just to dovetail on that, one of the positive things I heard last night is, and this is again subject to change, but they are predicting that the first few months of summer, there's going to be more marine layer, which I don't know how they go out that far and predict that, but that's what the chief reported. And that relates to the humidity, as Gus was saying.
Yeah. I like your companion, Donna. So two of them. Okay. And then we had a presentation by Pacific Gas and Electric, and PG&E was there, and they did a slideshow, and just going back to the fire chief's remarks about the west side of the hills to the west. PG&E had a map of Cloverdale, and they had it color coded with the tier 3 fire zones, and then tier 2 and tier 1. And again, they had the east side as tier 3. It was all in red, that it's a fire hazard area. And then on the west side, it was a couple steps down. They didn't deem it as much of a fire hazard as the east sides. And that was really surprising to me. So I will encourage that you go to the city webpage and look at the Zoom meeting. It's always there. And in particular, watch those two presentations. I think you'll get a lot out of it. Brooke, yes.
Sorry. So by east side, you mean east of the
river?
East of the river. It's the river. Yeah. I'm thinking, Cloverdale Boulevard. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So that makes most of Cloverdale on the west side, all of them.
Right.
It's the area where I live, Brooke, the east side.
I know, honey.
The highest fire danger.
And they consider the vineyards as a buffer.
Yeah.
If the fire is up in Palomino Lakes, for it to come across the vineyard would be very difficult. So we'll see. Yeah, Jennifer, just join in. We don't stand up formality, just interrupt, and you're still on mute.
You got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I came to this meeting and I'm glad they're talking about the fires specifically, because I live on the east side of town and there has been multiple fires in the last few weeks from the homeless people. And, I see it. I live right here. I call the police multiple times a week. Last night, they were letting off fireworks and explosions around midnight, and there were sparks in the air. And I'm just, hoping to connect with people in the city council and with the mayor here, just different things. And just hopefully that there's some work being done, because the police don't seem to be doing much. I mean, I know they're trying, And then I hear like, oh, this side of the is more of a fire danger. Yeah, it is, because there's a lot of other threats in the area, not just natural causes. So it's like, and I kind of feel like this side of town isn't looked at as such a priority. Like there's not a strong police presence around. And I mean, I'm just speaking like that's just my comment.
Yeah.
Take
Well,
do with it what
Jennifer,
you will, but
are you on the east side of the river or are you on the west side of the river?
We're right at the river.
I'm on Lake Street, Lake and,
Okay.
and Asti Road. Yeah.
Okay, well, you're right within city limits and all.
Mhm.
And yes, you know, I encourage everyone that when they see smoke, when they suspect a fire, in addition to calling the police, please call the fire district as well.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, okay. And you know, we're challenged with our homeless population. The city property ends at the river,
Mhm.
and on the opposite side is the county. You know, I view it all as Cloverdale. You know, I
Right.
mean, we just can't neglect Palomino Lakes or the east side of the river where they're camping. You know, our police department does respond out into the county for a 911 call. They will not wait for the sheriff to come up. With that being said, keeping track of the homeless is a very difficult job. They have rights too. And the police just can't go there and move people along. If they're on private property and there's signs posted that say no trespassing, absolutely. They can go there and
What
move
about the
them
whole
along.
railroad thing?
You know, we got the tunnel there, we got the railroad tracks. We
Mhm.
don't have a right to go onto those railroad tracks. We did get permission from NCRA
Yeah, I know about that.
to be able to go there and clean up that situation. You know, we're on it the best we can. It disturbs me that you heard fireworks last night. And
Oh,
again,
multiple times.
was that coming from along the river?
Yeah. And I called the police and, like they were there within a few minutes, but it's like, it already happened. I mean, we were sound asleep and it shook
Yeah.
my windows. Like
Yeah.
it was like it was definitely like loud fireworks. Like, and I could smell it, woke up my whole house, woke up other neighbors. And it happens all the time, multiple times a week. It happens and they never catch them. They never see them. They always come late. And it's like, I've, said, can you guys camp out down here? Like, come be in my yard. I don't care. Come, you'll see everything. If you come park right near my house, you'll see it all. But there's not a heavy presence. There's just not.
Jennifer, can you put your email in the chat? I want to make sure you get
Yeah.
the agenda for the next homeless advisory committee.
Yeah, it's always hard because it's when I'm working. So like I
Yeah.
have,
Yeah, we're gonna do some later, so that folks who want to attend can. It sounds like you know what it is already, but it's a group that's really trying to work through what we can do and how we can help the situation. It's in so many cities. It's a dire situation. I really think there's a lot of great answers, but I think if we can be organized as a community, then that's going to be our best approach.
Me and my neighbors over here, we're trying to organize and we try to work together and we watch,
That's
but
good.
there is fires all the time. I mean, it's not just the ones that the police find out about or the fire department does. It's like you'll wake up at 3 a.m, take your dog out to go to the bathroom and you can totally smell smoke and you can see it, but they're down on the river and no one's going down there to put it out, and they have a right to have a fire for warmth and they have a right to fire for cooking, but it's just like, like I don't want my house burning down. I work hard, or my neighbors or anybody in this community. I care about this community. It's just really frustrating.
Well, it's a challenging situation for the city and not to go off on a homeless rant, but, I think there's a certain segment of the homeless population that give the homeless a bad name.
For
And
sure.
that's those that are suffering from mental illness and drug addiction.
Mhm.
We're fooling ourselves if we think throwing money at those two issues by providing shelters is going to do anything. Some of those people need to be institutionalized. We police officers pick up, well, there's a lady in town, you probably all know her. She goes by the first name of Bonnie. She's been sent down for evaluation, 5150 evaluation. she beats the police home. She, you know, when she goes in for the evaluation, she knows what to say. You know,
Mhm.
we need something where, you know, if you don't want help for your problem, then you need to be institutionalized somehow. You know, Ronald Reagan did away with that system in the country. And, you know, we don't know how to handle that issue. I don't, at least. You know, mom and dad who are unemployed, the working poor that are living in a mobile home, absolutely, we can help. You know, we can put them into a low-income housing. But the challenge is the ones that give a bad name to homeless, and that's who you're talking about.
Yeah, and I know all about, and I don't want to monopolize the time with homeless. I just wanted to make a point to somebody who had some, you know, power and different things in the town, and just say, like, we need help over here.
Yeah. Well, and we hear from your neighbor, Angela's over there, Angela
Oh, yeah.
Cordova. And you know, we listen to what you say. It's just a question of what can we legally do.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you for hearing me talk. I appreciate
well,
it.
anytime, and keep that mic on.
And Kevin, the homeless advisory group is the second Tuesday of the month at 1 to 3:30.
I have to check. I'm not sure if we're,
That's
I
what
don't know
have.
if we're on a, yeah, I don't remember the date, but there is one coming up in May. And I think it is, you're right, but I don't want to say for sure. Let me.
Okay.
Well, I know James Gore's meeting is going on right now, and that's why the mayor couldn't be here. It's, you know, James Gore does a 4th district homeless task force meeting, and what he's looking for by doing it this way, representatives from Windsor, Hillsburg, the county, Geyserville, and we just try and put our heads together on how to get our arms around this. And we want consistency in the North County. You know, you see Santa Rosa all the time. You know, they have such a problem down there. And then they go along like the Joe Rodolo Trail and they clean that up. Well, those people are going to go somewhere. They're not miraculously moving into a home. I mean, they're just going a block over or 2 blocks over. And we get some of that backlash as well up here in Cloverdale. So at yesterday's Board of Supervisors meeting, they were doing their budget and they were talking about finding in each region something where they can do something like safe RV parking, safe zones where people can go and park their RV and not have to worry about being out on the streets or being shooed off. It's a program where they can be there at nights. So I don't know. I just know the county's aware of it. Like politicians do, when an issue comes up, they throw money at it, you know, thinking that'll solve everything. But you need a plan with the money, and that's what they're trying to develop. So next we went into the consent calendar, and all items on that consent calendar are approved with one motion. And one of the couple of things that we approved, I just want to share with you. 2nd Street Park, and Kevin, you can help me with this. We authorized a budget adjustment to increase the amount by about $5,000 to do the paving of the walkways around Second Street Park, where the basketball court is. It's all eaten up. It's a mess. So that's going to all be repaved here shortly.
Yeah, that's most of that's being paid through it's called the CDBG grant, which comes through the county. It's actually federal money, and a lot of it has to do with ADA accessibility. The first contractor that we selected ended up not wanting to do it, so we had to pivot to this other M3 who did the work at Healdsburg Avenue and South Cloverdale Boulevard. So we know those guys, and we're hoping they can get it done pretty quick. So that's exciting. And then the other, just real quick, since we're talking about 2nd Street Park, we are in line to get a grant from the state to work on the basketball hoops there. So that's been talked about at the council. And we need to apply for this state grant, which is really, it's not really competitive. It's just kind of based on your population. So it's pretty much a guarantee that we'll get it. And the council chose the basketball hoops as is the area they want to spend that money on.
And, you know, again, not to go off on a tangent, but, you know, whenever I have a frank conversation with Supervisor Gore, I always remind him that there's no recreational areas up here for kids to play in the county area. They all come to Cloverdale and use Second Street Park to play basketball, Vintage Meadows, Ferber Park. County, you need to contribute some money to Cloverdale to help improve these parks because your county folks use them as well. So, you know, we're constantly looking for money to do improvements to certain parks. So, and then, and I'm going to have to leave in a couple of minutes, but another important thing that we did was we appointed a new alternate planning commission to the planning commission. Her name is Melissa Springler. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Kevin? Longtime Cloverdale resident. Some of you may even know her. So she was approved and appointed, but that also spurred a discussion on what do we do as a city council when we appoint somebody to our planning commission or any other commission as far as a background check. Windsor right now is going through a difficult time, and apparently rumors were never investigated. And as a result, they have an individual who became the mayor of the city, and we all know what's happening down there now. So the police and admin subcommittee are going to take up the subject of how do we legally and how deep do we want to get into an individual's background before we give them the authority to represent our city. Like I said, and Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, council members, staff have to go through sexual harassment training. They have to go through conflict of interest training, 1, 2, 3, 4. Kevin, do our planning commissioners do that as well?
They do not.
And do they do Form 400, 700?
They do, yeah, they do the 700, but they're not required to do the training. But as Councilmember Walter said, we're going to take a look and see what, you know, how far we can go, how far do we want to go. But I think just adding a little bit more background just to ensure we're selecting the right person. You know, we can do our own local type things to see that, you know, the water bill, any like code enforcement, things like that are pretty easy to do. And we did that with Miss Springler. So that was fine. But, and this is not directed at her in any way. It's just,
no.
She's a fine individual. I've interviewed her twice for planning commission and she's gonna be a great addition. It's just going forward.
And then just the last thing I want to touch on before I go, we had and I know this is going to affect some folks here. Donna, it's going to affect you. We had a conversation about our leash laws for canines. And we decided to contract out with, I'm slipping here, the company out of Petaluma where you send your application for a dog license. You send your check every year, $20, and they mail you the tag.
North Bay Animal Control Services.
Thank you, Kevin. And they will now be handling vicious dog attacks for the city. They will be handling, if an individual is bit, they'll be doing the follow-up. They'll be taking a big burden off of our police department, who now has to do that. And they really don't have the training to do that. So contracting with this company is going to free up Teresa's time to do other things that she should be doing and not run around making sure that people have their dogs on a leash. A couple of the city council members, myself included, we did not want the leash law to be part of this contract. Simply because, look, I think on a Saturday, Sunday morning, you can go behind Jefferson School, you can go behind Washington School, you can go to Second Street Park, and you're going to see the dogs running around playing with one another. And is it right? No, they're supposed to be on a leash. We're talking people my age, 65 plus, that have their children with them, the four-legged children that they love and adore, and they're going to protect them. That's not who the law is focused on. We're focused on the nasty, aggressive dog that shouldn't be off a leash, probably shouldn't be out of its cage. That's the one we're trying to focus on. So the bottom line, citations will be issued, but they'll all be reviewed by the police chief. So Chief Ferguson will have final say on whether there's going to be a fine. We also stressed with them that we want this enforced on an educational basis. Don't just run out with your pad when the dog's off the leash. If he bit somebody, that's completely different. If he hops the fence, that's completely different. But Donna walking her two little dogs and letting them off leash for a second, she doesn't get a citation. Donna, don't do that again. If you do it again, I'm going to give you a citation. And maybe you do that 3 or 4 times and then you give her a citation. But we just wanted to keep our Mayberry image up here in Cloverdale. I had a problem with letting outsiders from Petaluma come up here and issue summons to our folks. They don't know anybody in town, so that was handled. We did approve it. And Kevin, if you have anything to add on that, but it is going to save the money in the long run because the police are going to be freed up to do other things. Teresa's can focus more on basketball hoops in the street, all the rest of the stuff she's supposed to be doing. So
Mine too are cats, but what
oh,
about a dog park up
Well,
there? When I
yeah,
Googled it, there doesn't seem to be a place for dogs to go up there.
yeah, and that was another concern I had. Maybe we do the leash law once we have a dog park. But with that being said, when I was in the park yesterday walking Gracie, Kevin, at the Scout Cabin, as you look at the Scout Cabin on the left-hand side, there's a fenced-in area. And I was just wondering if we could extend that fence down a little bit, maybe 50 yards, and fence it off. That would be an ideal dog park. However, it might be too close to the playground. And there's some ordinance or there's something to do with the state where they say a dog park has to be so many feet away from a playground.
I wonder what that is, Gus, because I'm in Windsor. We have a playground right next to our dog park, literally.
Yeah.
Oh,
I haven't heard that. We
Okay.
can look into it. Well, let's look
Yeah.
into it. I haven't heard that state law, but we can double
Would be
check.
a great space
Yeah.
though.
I'm sorry, we didn't hear you, Al.
I said it would be a great space though, if it would work.
It would. And the other space that Kevin and I talked about maybe 2-3 years ago was in Vintage Meadows Park, behind the restrooms. There's a whole area. It's probably, maybe 75 yards that runs along the sidewalk. It's sandwiched by 3 sidewalks, actually.
Mhm.
If we put a little fence around that would be a great dog park. There was big boulders there. There was a ravine. But the community really didn't think they'd want a dog park in their neighborhood, similar to skate parks, Donna. Nobody wants them in their neighborhood. So, but I think that Second Street Park might be good.
Yeah.
Jennifer, just chime in.
Okay, I'm just gonna play devil's advocate about the leash law. I was like, I have a dog and I walk her all over the town every day. And I always keep her on a leash, and it's not just people having their little dogs off the leash running around. I'll be walking my dog and she's not aggressive, but people with their dogs off leash come running at my dog through Ferber Park, through, I don't know the name of the other park, but then like my dog gets like, she's going to protect me. She's going to growl. And then people say, control your dog. It's like, no, put your dog on a leash. You're in a park, follow the rules. Sorry.
Yeah.
I follow the rules so that it's safe for everybody. And I don't think it's a good enough excuse for me to say, oh, well, we don't have a dog park. Yeah, well, not,
Well,
I could let my dog off. My dog's 100 pounds. But if I have my dog off the leash, and she's a German Shepherd, people are going to go, oh, here comes the aggressive dog.
Yeah.
And you know, I never see police giving warnings, or Teresa, I see her drive by Ferber Park all the time, and people have their dogs off leash and she doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
saying.
No, and you're absolutely right. I think it's up.
Can't be fair
up
to some people and not fair to others.
Well, I think it's up to every individual owner to determine whether their dog is the type that could be let off leash. You know, I know I have a dog that's 10 years old, and you know, I can run circles around her, you know, and she just kind of mopes along. You know, I'm not talking about the pit bull or the 3 dogs that run up and down Cloverdale Boulevard down next to Ace Hardware. But yeah, so bottom line, we gotta find a dog park.
Yeah, great. Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I think to Jennifer's point, though, it is important to note that if there is a rule, it should be followed. I mean, there's a reason for it.
I
You know, and
agree.
They're posted in all the parks and no one does it.
Yeah.
Or half the people don't. And then like, if I say to people, can you please put your dog on the leash so I can walk by? Because it's my right to be in the park. I pay taxes here.
Absolutely.
And you know, people they get an attitude with me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not going to bother to call the police. They have better things to do. So I just turn around and do my own thing, but that's not fair. Like, it's posted in the park, keep your dog on a leash. So it's safe for kids too.
Well,
either enforce it or take the posting down, because it's just creating conflict between citizens.
I agree with you, and we now have somebody that's going to enforce that. So, but again, you know, I think this city council and our direction to our police department is, we don't want anybody coming down heavily handed on somebody unless it's absolutely called for. So we're community, we'd like to see a community policing department where everything is enforced through education up to a certain point. So the point I was making is, we don't want somebody coming into Cloverdale right away, opening the citation book and start throwing citations at people. You know, we got to educate them first, and that's what we're going to do. So I know that's not a popular, but that's the way I feel. So
Well, it's not a matter of popular. I mean, when I took care of the skate park in the Hillsburg for 20 years, it was a matter of, you know, I mean, there was a lot of warnings giving out, but sometimes a warning is a bit of enforcement. You know, not just writing somebody a citation, but the cops would come in and say, hey, bikes don't belong here because the city's not insured for bikes. So you need to leave. And, you know, they would leave. They would come back, but at least saying something is better than saying nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's along the same lines as Cloverdale Boulevard. We have on the sidewalk stamped no skateboarding, no bicycling. You know, you can sit at Plank for 10 minutes and somebody's going to come zipping through on their bike.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and again, when we did that, you know, please don't cite, dad and the little 4-year-old with his training wheels, you know, riding down the sidewalk. We want the kid coming down there at 40 miles an hour, knocking some old lady down. So selective enforcement, yeah, but you know, there's reasons for it. So let me take my foot out of my mouth now that I've supported.
Well, the point is that the council approved the contract with North Bay Animal Control, and they do a lot of things related to animals, including wild animals. They'll come pick up, God forbid, you know, dead animals. They are trained to follow up on dog bites and they'll give citations. You know, they are a contract of the city, so they're going to follow our direction in terms of the enforcement, kind of like Gus just said, you know, the kid with the training wheels versus something else. So there's going to be a little bit of help coming to town related to animals, and I think it's going to be welcomed.
And we will look into that 2nd Street Park. I really think that would be a great location. I know there is a dog park over at Lake Sonoma, down by the picnic areas. You know, to me, that's just a chain link dog run. It's a chain link fence that you can put your dog in. I don't think it's ever cared for. I don't know that I'd even put my dog in that. So it's going to be a challenge. Like I said, you know, it's the skateboard mentality, not in my neighborhood. So Kevin, what else do we want to talk about?
Probably the biggest item we talked about was the drought. The council adopted a drought resolution last night that we're asking the community to cut their water use by 25 to 30%. We did receive a number of reports from the city engineer, the Sonoma water engineer, and you know, I think everyone knows this, but it's starting to sink in a little bit more and more. It's bad. It's real bad. And Lake Mendocino is down to historic low levels, as is Lake Sonoma. And we're going to have to face the fact that we're going to have to start conserving water. Right now, it's what we call a phase 2 drought declaration. The council had the option of phase 1, 2, or 3. Phase 2 has a number of things limiting outdoor watering. Again, really asking for the community to pull together to try to save 25% of their water use. And a lot of that will be obtained through outdoor watering. It's, you know, it stresses me out to be honest with you. It's they're saying things like, you know, the lake levels have never been this low at this time of the year. Lake Mendocino, they're, you know, the best case is that could be, you know, 10 to 12,000 acre feet in October. You know, its capacity is near 70,000. And Lake Sonoma, likewise, not quite as bad, but still has never been this low at this point. You know, long story short, we're going to be reaching out to the community to really help us conserve water. The city will be doing the same. The city's one of the biggest water users through the parks. You're going to see grass turning brown, and you know, it's not going to be, it's going to look a little uglier, but that's just kind of where we are right now. And just, you know, really hope that we get a good wet season coming up. Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that. There's, you know, it's likely going to get more stringent within the next few months, which would be a stage 3. Right now, it's kind of a voluntary reduction. We're asking people to reduce and hoping that they can step up. If that doesn't occur, then it becomes more of us enforcing things, which no one really likes, and we don't want to do that. So we're hoping that people can really cut back. Yeah, it's fortunately it's, you know, just 2 really bad wet, not wet years, and this year was just terrible. 12 inches of rain, you know, when we normally get 38 inches of rain. So anyway.
Colleen?
Hi, I think on a previous meeting like this, Coffee with the Mayor, you had spoken about the idea of having someone come in after you've measured out like a front yard, and someone else that there was some support for changing it into, I don't know, putting rocks down or something like that. Is that a program that's still available?
You know,
Yes, and yeah.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
Kevin.
Gus.
I was going to say a couple of years ago, we did the Grass for Cash program. And at the time, you know, the city will probably do that again. But there's a couple of things you have to remember. People were just ripping out their lawns, putting the grass in the turf in the green barrels. And then they were taking rock and they were putting the rock down and then calling the city. That's not what the program is designed to do. The way you should do it is you call the city first. We come out, we take some pictures of the grassy area. Then you kill the grass on the spot, because we don't want the landfills filled up with grass, with sod.
Mm-hmm.
You put in this special cardboard, I think it's the Ripley kind, that you lay over your lawn. You put your stone on top of that. After a couple of years, that cardboard would disintegrate and the grass will die. I did that to my home. And then the city comes out, re-inspects, and then you get your cash for grass. And the state did a similar program, and I made the mistake of doing it and then sending pictures to the state, and they said, no, you know, you take your pictures, you send it, you apply for it, then we tell you you're tentatively approved. We do the final approval once you send us pictures of the new area. So
Yeah,
just make sure you read the directions first.
And the,
there's a time limit too, if I remember correctly. We did it for our other house and we missed the time period, so we didn't get the.
yeah, as of, we're entering into a contract with the Russian River Watershed Alliance, and part of that is a water conservation component where, and we'll be rolling out the details real soon. One of their experts can come to your house and give you advice on how
Almost
to,
ready? Yeah. Okay.
on how to reduce your water use. Gus, if you got a roll.
I do.
Okay, yeah. Well,
But-
thank you very. I can stay on and try to answer
Okay.
questions the best I can. Yeah.
And just remind everybody that we're not tied into Lake Mendocino. It's strictly the Russian River watershed. Folks, thank you. Mayor Turner will be back at the next meeting, I'm sure. And good talking to you, Jennifer. I'm glad you joined us, and feel free to shoot me an email anytime you want to get together and chat.
Okay, thank you. I
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Gus.
I'll pass your concerns along to Chief Ferguson. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you coming.
Could I add one thing more, please?
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm in a homeowners association and Rancho de Amigos, and maybe as drought is proclaimed, they will back off, but they penalize homeowners whose grass goes dry
Yeah.
with a financial fee on a monthly basis, because that's not pretty.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that last night, and I'm not an expert, but I'm learning a lot, and I've been around it. But according to our city engineer, the city can supersede any CC&R requirements for certain watering, and that may be a discussion. The one that comes to mind for me is the church on the south end, just north of the Ray Center. They have got a gigantic green lawn out in front. And like I said, right now it's voluntary. And I guess I've been in this area a long time, but I wasn't associated with Cloverdale the last drought. But I guess people really did step up and do more savings than was even asked of them. If that happens again, we're going to be good. But if it doesn't, then we have to start being water cops, and we're going to be driving around and again, it won't be a citation necessarily, but it will be, warnings, things like that. One of the things that I'm really interested in is I'm going to try to do at my house is a gray water system, which they're very much in use all around the world. And it's really just taking your shower or, your laundry and bringing that outside and using that water in an easier way than, dragging buckets, which is another way to do it, but it's just kind of a pain. But so I've been doing a lot of research on that. And one of the kind of annoying things about that is in the building code, it does have to be designed by, a design professional, which is good, but it's not that complicated. And the other thing is, that's going to double the cost and just turn people off. So I've noticed a few cities have done like just kind of canned plans that were already approved. So if you do something similar to that, then you can just do it. So I'm working on that. Yeah, it's good. Go ahead, Susie.
Do you know how the city is going to be kind of reminding the community to save water? How's that going out? Because I know it was discussed last night, so it's very new, thing that we're trying to promote. How is that being shared with the community to remind them that this is,
Yeah, we're going to do our best at getting it out there. We do have our contract with the Russian River Watershed Association, and part of their contract is promotion and outreach. So we're going to rely on them heavily. We're going to do our part. I think it's kind of sinking in with people around, but it's going to be in our face just big time very soon. And so, Gus did mention a cash for grass. We don't have that up and running yet. So just as the takeaway, it probably will be something we do, but as of right now, it's not up and running. So don't run out and do that necessarily. But so, it's these engineers last night really put the fear into us. And I'm sure their goal is to really get us people to start saving right away so that this October, you know, Lake Mendocino, it might be a mud puddle. I mean, it's just really, really bad. So, and you know, Gus mentioned at the end that we don't get water from Lake Sonoma. So we're what they call the upper Russian River watershed. So we're counting on Lake Pillsbury and Lake Mendocino and the river. Everything south of Dry Creek, you know, does have the advantage of the water coming out of Lake Sonoma, which is 3 times bigger than Lake Mendocino, but still at a record low. So.
Well, Kevin, I want to say thank you for joining us. I'm going to have to leave, but
Okay.
Certainly, Jennifer, it was nice to have you join us for the first time, and Brooke as well. And Darlene, we always look forward to you and Donna joining us. So feel free to stay as long as you need to, but I actually have to go. It was good to see everybody.
Thanks, Melanie. Take care. Have a good day.
Great to have a couple new faces on here.
Thank you.
I don't know if there's any questions. It's going to be, you know, I've got a small patch of grass out here in my yard, and it's turning brown, and it's, you know, just trying to figure out what to do about it. You know, bark, rocks. There's fake grass too, but I heard the fake grass is, well, for one, it's pretty expensive, and for two, I heard, and I don't know this for sure, it gets really hot, so you don't even want to.
I will tell you that in the beginning, it got really hot. The newer types don't get quite as hot. So
do you have it, Al? Do you have it?
No, I used to install it actually.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, it looks amazing. It's just, yeah.
I put in a few lawns. Now, what I currently have right now is a very small patch of lawn, but my wife has engineered a way to capture rinse water from doing the dishes and utilizing the little play pools that the grandchildren use, and she takes that water and puts it on the lawn. So it's very nice of her to do that, and she waters her plants that way too.
Yeah.
But she's into conserving water. So we have a little patch of lawn that we will eventually be moving it to artificial turf. But in the meantime, salvage what water you can. You know, I mean, it's, you know, the grass doesn't care if there's a little dish soap in it or what have you. So, you know, salvage what you can.
Al, do you recommend the artificial grass?
I recommend it. I recommend it in certain areas. I mean, obviously, if it's installed correctly, it's great, you know. But if it's not installed correctly, it will quickly become an eyesore, worse than a brown patch. So okay. I do recommend it. I just think you want to get a good quality artificial turf, and you need to have it installed correctly. It's a little bit of a process. It's a one-time investment that certainly saves you a ton of money over time. I don't know if you guys know, but I used to run Howarth Park maintenance for about 9 years, and then I took care of all of those lawns and all of those trees and all of those bushes, and you know, along with the buildings. And in addition to that, you know, I would just in the afternoons I would go and I would put artificial turf in for people that were trying to conserve money in the big drought. What was it? I don't know, 15 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I recommend it. It's better now than it was then. It looks better now. It's not as hot, but again, it will get a little warm.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
Was there anything else on the agenda last night that we need to talk about this morning, or are we pretty much?
That, you know, I think we talked about every single item. I don't know why it took so long, but
all right. Well, if that was everything that's covered and nobody has any more questions, I want to respect everybody's time. We're about 10 minutes later than normal. So I really want to thank you, Kevin, for filling in and having the information to share, and that Gus was able to join us as well. And
no
I'm
problem,
glad
anytime.
to see some new faces, even though it seems like some of the old faces were busy today. That happens because I know that we're talking about fire season and getting some new directions in the county and things like that. So we look forward to having some updates about that at the next Coffee with the Mayor.
Thank you.
Lastly, can I please add
Yeah,
just that
Donna,
the,
what's up?
you know, as the library and everything, me, I'm coming from the library. But these new faces, I saw Brooke in the library at recess recently, and Darlene has stopped by many times, and we do offer in-service services, in-service, us to see 2 separate hours each day, 6 days a week. We do have little bookmarks that we're happy to pass out. I don't want to bore you with the timings, but it's an hour after and an hour before we open and close. So if you can figure that all out, you can figure out the timings. But come visit us, call us if you can't. We still
So
do curbside the full time.
So exciting to go back into the library. It really is.
Well, it's exciting even to meet with clients nowadays. It's like, wow, like a privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. So please, now it's time to browse, check out your own things. We're still happy to help you. Don't get me wrong. We still do curbside. We still do whatever we need to get the information to you. But yeah, now you can come in.
Great.
Masks, please.
Thank
We
you.
always wear masks.
Before you go, Kevin, just one more little item for Earth Day celebration. We were doing this long list of all the things that you could do to save water, and this was pre-drought. People were like, oh, I never thought I'd turn off the water while I was brushing my teeth. I mean, just these little common everyday things that if that could be communicated out, we'll find a
Yeah,
way to cover all of it.
I know that I know everyone has to go, but it takes almost a gallon and a half before my shower gets hot.
That's my
I just
biggest
bought a
concern.
nice little bucket that has like a lip on it, and I get it all, and then I have a 5-gallon bucket right outside my door. So anyway, it's but it's really clean. That's not like the sink water, so I use that on my indoor plants. But anyway, I'm into it. I'm trying to do my best, and I hope everyone takes it seriously because yeah. Go ahead, Brooke.
Oh, just that, that's my biggest concern, that in America, our system is to just run the water till it gets hot, and that's all we have in our homes. And we have a couple of water boilers, which are mostly for drinking tea and hot beverages, but we keep a big one in our kitchen, and we sometimes use it to wash our dishes or to heat up the water. So we're not just watching clean water go down the drain. I don't know if that's
so much of it just goes down the drain.
and that's a problem with American infrastructure. That's all we've got in our homes, and it's such a waste. So
yeah,
anyway.
That's why I like the gray water system. Okay. All right. Take care, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.